Hi, I'm Becky Streepy from Glue and Glitter, and today we're making queso. Y'all, this cashew-based queso is rich and creamy, it's kid approved, and you are gonna absolutely love it. Start with 1 cup of soaked cashews. You do not have to use raw cashews for this recipe. You certainly can, but I have learned that soaking your cashews actually softens up raw or roasted cashews just fine, so don't worry about looking for raw cashews. I know they can be expensive and sometimes hard to find, and you don't need them. You're gonna soak your cashews in hot water for about 10 to 15 minutes. I would say that if you're using a regular blender or roasted cashews, go for the longer end of the soaking range. If you have a high-speed blender and raw cashews, a 10-minute soak will totally do the trick. Once you've soaked and drained your cashews, add them to the blender along with a ½ cup of your favorite salsa. Make sure that the salsa you're using is one that you really love because the salsa is going to bring a lot of the flavor to this mixture, so don't skimp on the salsa. Then add apple cider vinegar to the blender along with 2 tablespoons of olive oil and 2 cloves of garlic. If you're a big garlic fan, absolutely feel free to double that amount of garlic. I know that I do that sometimes, depending on who I'm making this queso for. Toss in a ¼ cup of nutritional yeast and you're ready to blend. Now let's talk about the blending because this is the crucial step in this recipe. What your blending process is going to look like will depend on the type of blender you have. I'm using a high-speed blender, so it took me about 1.5 minutes. So I did a 1-minute stint of blending, gave the motor a rest, and then blended for another 30 seconds just to make certain that I had a totally smooth, creamy mixture. If you do not have a high-speed blender, you can still make this recipe. You're just going to need to blend for longer, and I recommend blending for 45 seconds to 1 minute at a time, then stop. Give your blender a rest. Use a spatula to scrape down the sides of the bowl so that anything that's jumped up gets back down by the blades, and then blend again. And just keep blending and resting until you have a totally smooth mix. You don't want any chunks or any grainy quality to this queso. You want it nice and smooth and creamy. Once you're done blending, you are ready to serve. I love to serve this with chips. I love to serve it with veggies for dipping. It's also great inside of a quesadilla. Just spread it onto tortillas with some veggies and beans, fold them in half and bake or fry them. Pretty much anywhere that you'd use a dairy-based queso, you can use this cashew queso instead. I hope that this video has answered all of your questions about how to make cashew queso in your blender. If you have any questions that I didn't address, feel free to drop a comment. I'm always happy to help. And don't forget to rate and subscribe. Happy cooking!